Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics. This week's questions answered video, do you carry a fixed blade knife? Short answer to that question is yes, I do. I actually have this Scallywag. It was made for Agency Arms. Agency gave these out to a choice number of individuals. I was blessed enough to be one of them. This is almost my everyday carry, carried outside the waistband. It's small, but it is a fixed blade knife. It'll get the job done, whatever the job happens to be. I like this knife a lot. Scallywag offers this knife. I can't remember the name of it as they retail it, and it may not be in production anymore, but I like the design, the small cleaver style design of that knife. Not the only fixed blade I carry, but this is most likely the one that's going to be on me. Another fixed blade that I'm a huge fan of, I carry probably just as much as the Scallywag, is the Hoback Kwaiback. I like this knife a lot, even though I'm not a huge fan of Tonto style blades, reason being it's a little harder to get leverage and cut straps and things like that with a Tonto than it would be like a drop point or a spear point. But a fixed blade knife is a utility knife. It can be used as a prying device, and it's going to generally have more rigidity and more lend itself better to tool type tasks than a folding knife would be. So for those reasons alone, I am a big fan of a fixed blade knife being part of the EDC. Usually they're unobtrusive. Unless you go super large, you're not going to have too many issues carrying. There has been a resurgence in fixed blade knives recently. You see guys carrying them appendix along with their firearm and their spare magazine. I'm not really big on that, just for my own personal reasons. But from personal experience, a good knife, be it a fixed blade or a folder, I've been an Emerson fan for years because of the self-deployment wave feature they have, can aid you in a weapon retention situation for duty carry. While I'm not a knife collector, I have somehow ended up with a knife collection through over the years. I've got a number of hardcore hardware knives. I like these a lot. They do have the finger loop for retention. I go back and forth on that, like you see with karambits and stuff like that. My biggest concern with a finger retention device such as this would be degloving. If the knife is forcefully ripped from your hand, be it from a machine or from another human being, it can take a good amount of your finger with it. So that's always been a concern of mine. I recently got this Bastinelli Mako, which is, I pretty much impulse bought this just based on the design. I really like the way it looks. I don't know practicality-wise how useful it's going to be, and the finger loop placement does kind of prohibit some of your normal grips. It's mainly an ice pick carry, not really going to lend itself. Anyway, not really going to lend itself well to any other method of carry besides that ice pick carry. But as a fixed blade for strictly weapon retention purposes, it would definitely come in handy. Of course, you can hold it any way you want if you're doing some kind of administrative task, like I said, cutting straps, because that's what most of my knives end up being used for, is utility. I travel, go to a class, targets get shipped in, I got to cut those shipping straps off them, or I got to cut open ammo boxes or something like that. The knife's going to be 99% utility, and that's kind of the way I view it, be it fixed blade or folder. Now, getting into fantasy land, DMO made me this awesome cleaver. I'm a huge cleaver fan. Law enforcement, I was a big fan of the Tomahawk. Military, I was a big fan of the Tomahawk. I might do a video on Tomahawks at some point just to show you the goods and the bads of what's out there, because I do have quite a few of those as well. As a tool, you can use it as a pry, you can use it as a cut. If you got to cut into a wall, you got to pry open a door, you got to knock a lock off. Tomahawks are great, but they are a little bit restrictive in the environments you can use them in. I repurposed a very, very well made, very, very old, I later found out it was antique cleaver, just a meat cleaver. And I found that I could get almost the same amount of work done with the cleaver as I could with the Tomahawk. So having a conversation with the guys at DMO years ago at SHOT Show, they made me this, and I've been using it ever since. I wouldn't consider this to be an EDC item, but it was purpose-built to be able to do the same things that I do with the Tomahawk, except for your actual axe-type cutting. You're not going to be able to generate the same amount of force necessarily with this. But I've got a spear point on the back, I can still hit locks, I can still pry with it, and most importantly, I can cut the shit out of stuff with it, which I think is awesome. I even got a huge power assist ridge line there on the top in case I really got to drive down on something. No, I'm not planning on or have any plans to appendix carry the cleaver or carry the cleaver as part of my EDC. Get that out of the way right now. That's more of a duty gear or woodland outside camping type of tool. These days, I don't find myself in a law enforcement role full time, and especially in a SWAT role, so I have limited usefulness for that cleaver these days, but I do appreciate that I have it because I can use it in the kitchen or I can use it out in the woods, which is great. You can make sure you clean it either way. So that's kind of my approach to fixed blade knives. If you think you can carry one, I highly recommend it because you'll find that it's going to be able to do things that your folding knife won't necessarily be able to do. Does that mean you shouldn't carry a folding knife? Kind of a personal decision. I still do because it doesn't take up a whole lot of room in my pocket. I don't notice it. It doesn't really affect my life in any meaningful way in a negative fashion. So there's no reason why I can't carry both. If you have any other questions about this video or any questions in general, you can drop them in the comments section below. I'm Aaron Cowan with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.